and Yvette Whiteside on Local Memphis Live.
Welcome back to Local Memphis Live. Experts say asthma flare-ups typically peak around the third week of September through early October, which can be a major problem for many school-aged kids.
Dr. Brandon Hill from the Allergy and Asthma Network is here to help parents keep their children's asthma under control. Welcome.
Thanks for coming in.
Excited to have you here. Okay, so asthma peak week was last week, but
Correct.
Why is it still a bad time for children with asthma?
You're correct. Asthma peak week is usually around the second or third week of September, and usually it occurs for several reasons. Usually this is the cold and flu season, and kids are heading back to school, and with kids being crowded in the school, you tend to get more sharing of pencils and pens and notebooks and papers, and with that, kids tend to transfer germs. This is also fall allergy season. Ragweed season tends to start around the second week of August and can go well into the fall until we get the first frost. So all of these things combined tend to flare up asthma during this time of year.
And allergies are bothering me, and you have asthma.
Forget about me. Yeah, I've been sick for the last week. Last week I got sick, and I have asthma. So you mentioned just briefly about kids who are attending school that you do see symptoms more rapidly in school-aged kids.
You do. It can occur at any age, but usually at this time of year there are several reasons why asthma tends to flare up in the fall, primarily cold and flu season, and kids are also starting more sports in this time of year. Kids are playing more football, more soccer. So if kids that have underlying exercise-induced asthma, this is also the time where it tends to flare up more. And with the cooling of the weather, some patients with their asthma, it tends to flare up more as the temperature starts to drop. So there are a lot of reasons why asthma will tend to flare up during this time of year.
How can you recognize asthma symptoms?
That's a great question. There are several things that go along with patients when their asthma tends to flare up. They tend to get more shortness of breath, more coughing, particularly a cough that's usually worse at night when kids are trying to sleep. Kids will also get more wheezing. That is sort of a whistling sound as they're breathing in and out. Oftentimes they may have chest tightness or chest pressure. And there are several other things that can also be seen. One of them is retractions. As you tend to get more tightening of the chest muscles in the neck, kids will have more difficulty breathing.
Why is it important? You know, the parents always know what to do with your child with asthma, but why is it important for kids to know how to handle their asthma?
It's very important that all patients understand their own body, understand when their asthma is starting to flare up, and it allows patients to take more ownership of the disease. The more you know about the disease, the more you know about your body, you can recognize those symptoms of shortness of breath, coughing, and wheezing sooner, and it allows you to do an intervention so that the disease doesn't flare up more.
So what is the right medication to take?
There are two broad categories of medicines. One is daily controller medications. The other one is quick reliever or rescue medications. Daily controller medications, it is important that patients use these medicines on a daily basis. These medicines are used to prevent the disease from flaring. So if you start using those medicines when the disease starts to exacerbate, they really don't help you very much. But there are also quick reliever medicines. These are medicines that you tend to use on an as-needed basis. They don't do a whole lot to control the disease, but if it does start to flare, you can use these medicines to help get it back under control. Also, patients that have some exercise component to their asthma, they may use some quick reliever medications prior to starting exercise.
I know a lot of times you can become complacent if you're on those controller medications and you don't have an emergency event happen. Is it still important to have that asthma action plan?
It is very important that patients have an asthma action plan.
And what would that look like?
This is particularly important for children before they start the school year. It actually lays out what the steps are if the disease starts to flare. That way, if it starts to flare, you will know exactly what the plan is. It gives you a 1, 2, 3 step pathway in terms of what to do.
So what do teachers need to know for those who may have children in their classrooms with asthma?
The first thing teachers need to know is exactly which children actually have asthma. They need to be able to identify those kids. They may have school forms, and the teachers need to make sure that those school forms have been filled out properly. Another important thing for teachers to know is, does the student have permission to carry and self-administer their rescue inhaler? Because if they have it available, they can remind the child to go ahead and use the inhaler. But if that child hasn't been given permission to self-carry, self-administer that inhaler, the teachers need to know how to get access, quick access to that inhaler just in case it's needed.
And there are some really hefty school policies when it comes to carrying medication and things like that. So check with your school and your teacher and have that plan just in case.
Exactly.
What are some other helpful resources for parents and for kids to find out more about how to control asthma?
A critical thing is that before the school year actually starts, parents should actually take their child in to get that asthma action plan together to make sure that all the medicines are up to date. A lot of times patients may have inhalers and the inhaler is actually expired.
Yeah.
So all of these things need to be done before the school year actually starts. Another critical thing is to make sure that children get their flu shot. It is important that they get that on a yearly basis. Patients that have asthma, if they get flu on top of their asthma, this is guaranteed to cause the asthma to flare up.
These are some great tips that you have given us today, Dr. Brandon. Thank you so much for stopping by.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, Andrea of Andrea's Cooktails will be showing us how to make recipes using top quality meat from Red Square Market in Hernando.
Can't wait for that, but first we've got more activities to talk about at Shelby Farms Park. Stay with us. We'll be right back.